Let's go, and I'm going to give you a little bit of background on who I am, how I got here, why this little kid's up at the front of the room. 23 years old, I bought my first investment property. Turned around, rehabbed it, sold it, cleared almost 100 grand. It was like 96 and some change on my first property. Anybody in here think I got addicted to real estate at a really young age? Yes. It's not even 10 years later, and I've done a lot more properties. At the 27, I was still investing, and I was like, just didn't feel like I was getting as far as other investors that I was seeing, and I wanted to go further and faster. And I heard one of those little infomercials. Anybody know who Robert Kiyosaki is? I heard one of those, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I heard one of those infomercials that like, get rich using real estate. And I was like, well, I'm already getting richer using real estate. If I teamed up with Robert Kiyosaki, maybe I could get richer faster. And I joined up with Rich Dad Education. In less than 6 months, I received the Rich Dad Hall of Fame. Out of over 1,200 students, I was selected as one of the 3 to receive that reward for the year. Last year alone, I did almost 70 properties consisting of multiple different strategies, wholesale, rehab, subject to, wraps, mobile homes. I love mobile homes. Anybody that knows about those? So that's a real quick background on me. I like to get feedback from the crowd, so if I feel like y'all are bored, it makes me feel bored. So if I say something stupid, let me know. Giggle, something, raise your hand. Raise your hand. Yay! I like feedback, okay? All right, so this is normally about a 4-hour presentation, and I'm going to really squeeze down and hit some of the highlights of this presentation for you. How many real estate investors do we have in the room? If you're not a real estate investor, I don't know why you're here. Maybe it's the beer. All right. How many marketing people do we have in the room right now? If you raised your hand and said you were a real estate investor and did not raise your hand and say you're a marketer, you got that backwards. If you're a real estate investor, you need to understand marketing. You need to do marketing because regardless of how much you know about real estate investing, you will never have the opportunity to implement that if you don't understand marketing. Marketing is what brings deals in. Network marketing, direct mail marketing, online marketing, whatever marketing you choose to do is how you get to implement the tools you've learned as a real estate investor. So without going any further into this, let's dig in. Anybody know what a CMA stands for? And for the people in the room that already seen me speak before, don't blow it. What's a CMA stand for? Comparative market analysis, exactly. But for today and for today only, I'm going to call it covering my assets. I am not a licensed real estate appraiser. I'm not an attorney. I'm not a CPA. I'm none of those other fancy fun things. I'm going to be discussing things that I've learned inside of my business, and I'm going to be speaking on my own stuff. If you want licensed information and you want stuff like that, go reach out to the lawyers. Okay? We're going to talk about marketing. What is the #1 strategy in 2016 moving into 2017? I'm going to move fast. If you have problems hearing me, move on up to the front. I've got to move fast. What's the #1 strategy? We got direct mail, cold calling, door knocking, bandit signs, mass media, networking, Craigslist, SEO web traffic, driving for dollars. What's the best strategy to use in 2016, 2017? All of the above was an answer? I'm going to tell you right now, the #1 strategy out of everything that is up there on that screen is going to be the one you focus on the most. Every single one of those works, and works well. But you need to pick one of them and focus on that one strategy until you have mastered it. And until you have mastered that, don't worry about confusing yourself. Don't try and go out and do every single one of those things week 1. You're going to get confused and you're not going to do any of them extremely well. Pick one of them and become the master of it. For me and for the rest of this presentation, I'm going to discuss what I mastered, what I liked, what I did the best. Every single one of these works, but I'm going to focus today on direct mail because that's the one that I did the most of. And if I get enough time, I'm going to do another thing and I'm going to talk about bandit signs if I have enough time. Don't let anybody sway your opinion. You walk up to 30 different investors and you say, what's the #1 marketing strategy? Half of them are going to say direct mail. Another one's going to say bandit signs. Another one's going to say SEO. The one that's going to work the best is the one that you can focus on. If you don't have enough time or the amount of money to do 20,000, 30,000, 40,000 letters a month, don't let that deter you. Do 50, 60, 70 Craigslist ads a day. They're free. But it works. Are y'all following me there? Am I boring you already? All right, let's move forward. Since I do direct mail, I'm going to discuss direct mail quite a bit today. I've got a lot of different lists up here. These are all different lists that you can market to. By no means is this an exhaustive list. There are tons and tons and tons of different strategies for different lists you can pull. I focused in on primarily notice of defaults, also known as pre-foreclosure. These are the notice of defaults, notice of trustee sales. I started out with those. It's a relatively competitive list. I wanted to be faster. I wanted to do things faster than everybody else. So I learned about this little list down here called appointment of substitute trustees. That's almost like the pre-nod. So for the people in the room that don't know what an appointment of substitute trustee is, I'm not going to discuss a lot about that today, but one of these things you need to learn and you're going to do in direct mail, if you want to do it and do it successfully, you need to see what everybody else is doing and either do something different or do it better. What I decided to do is I decided to do it better. So I started doing the appointments of substitute trustee. I was very successful in the pre-foreclosure market. Like I said, last year, almost 70 properties, a big chunk of them were pre-foreclosures. Outside of those, I focused in on, and I say focus, you see all these different lists up here, you can market to every single one of them. You need to focus, pick the ones that you think you can do the best with, because each one of these strategies has different things you need to overcome on the backside when you're negotiating with the seller. When you're negotiating with the seller and you're talking about a probate, there's going to be questions that pop up on a probate that aren't going to be the same questions that pop up on an appointment of substitute trustee. Specialize, focus, hone in, and become an expert in that area. So outside of pre-foreclosures, I moved in and started working inherited properties, which are your probates, and if I have them up there, I don't have them up there, affidavits of heirship. I moved into probates and I started becoming very good on the probate side. The reason I was doing the probates is because as I was doing the appointments of substitute trustees and notice of defaults, as I'm going on those appointments, a lot of those appointments I was going on, I started realizing were inherited properties. So if they were inherited properties and I'm getting them on the foreclosure, how many did I miss on the probate? So I started adding the probates in. As I started adding the probates in, there's two lists up here that are on both sides, vacants. Private lists, public record. Vacant properties. A lot of the pre-foreclosures and the probates I hit were what? Vacant. So if they hit a probate list and they hit a pre-foreclosure list and they were vacant, is there a possibility I might have been able to get to that property before either of those two public records were filed? Yes, of course there was. Now we've got public record, and we're going to discuss that, and we've got private lists. Anybody want to know where you can get like 10,000 plus private vacant properties a month for like easy? No? Okay. Yes, maybe. There's a website called findmotivatedsellersnow.com. That's a mouthful. And now that I've gotten you all excited to write down that whole thing, I subscribe to that. I'm not an affiliate or anything like that, but it's a flat rate. You can pay monthly. I don't know how much it was a month, or you can pay a single flat rate fee. It was like $1,000, but for $1,000 you get unlimited access to the website, and you can get up to 10,000 vacant property leads a month. I bought several properties using those lists, and now that I've gone through that long spiel, would you prefer to find a better way to get those lists? Yeah. Yes. All right. Let's get into some of the fun stuff. Does anybody in here know what the Public Information Act is? Couple of people? Okay, Public Information Act. I'm about to get really deep into some boring stuff with y'all, and y'all are going to love me for doing it, and if you don't, I'm sorry. I'm literally about to drop $10,000 plus worth of mentorship information on you right now. The Act, the Texas Public Information Act, gives the public the right, read that, the right to request access to government information. Below is a description of the basic procedures, rights, and responsibilities under the Act. Doesn't this sound fun already? We're going to start talking about some law. Making a request. The request must ask for records or information already in existence. You can't ask the government for a budget. It's not in existence. They don't have one. I got a couple people to laugh on that. No, but seriously, if they've got the information, you can request it, but they have to have the information. You can't ask them for information they don't have. But if they've got the information, you can ask for it. Does this make sense to you already? Yes. I don't really have a lot of time for questions. I'm trying to get through as much of this as I can. Exceptions to the Act. There are some exceptions. They can deny you some of this information based upon specific things. We'll talk more about that in a moment. But they must respond to your request within 10 business days. If a governmental body improperly fails to release information, the Act authorizes the requester or the Office of the Attorney General to file a civil lawsuit to compel the governmental body to release the information. Does this sound like they're pretty serious about it? You can sue Hearst if they don't give you a list. I know. This is all coming directly out of the Office of the Attorney General's handbook. This is almost a verbatim copy of this information. It took me over 6 months to get all this figured out. Does anybody know where I'm going with this? One or two people in here that have heard me talk about this before? I was sitting at a Chili's one night, and there was a table of people behind me that had no clue that I was a real estate investor. And what were they talking about? Real estate investing, and what was working well in their business. I overheard something very intriguing, and it all had to do with the Public Information Act. I sat there for like 2 hours sipping my drink and soaked up as much information as I possibly could. Maybe that wasn't ethical, but they shouldn't have been talking so much about a private little secret of theirs. I'd never heard of anything like this before in my life. Questions or complaints? Certain violations of the Act may involve possible criminal penalties. They get very serious about this. The Attorney General will go after the cities if they do not do what they are supposed to do. And what they are supposed to do is give you what you asked for if it is in existence, and they must do that within 10 days unless there is an exception to the rule. And if they want to apply for an exception, they must reach out to the Office of the Attorney General to see if the Office of the Attorney General will grant them that exception. Am I boring you? I thought we were going to talk about marketing, right? Why am I talking about the Public Information Act if I'm going to be talking about marketing? Because I'm going to be talking about how to get one of the most powerful lists in the Real Estate Investing Center that I've ever heard of or ever seen or ever used. How many people in here, I want to see you raise your hands if you did not hear it from me. If you heard it from me, keep your hands down. How many people already know what I'm talking about? Look around the room. Look around the room. Anybody in here know what a notice of default is? Raise your hand if you know what a notice of default is. Do you see the difference? I'm going to show you all a way to get a hold of a list that is extremely powerful, and I've done a lot of deals from it. Federal agencies. The Act does not apply to the federal government. The Federal Freedom of Information Act, though, is a different act that you can use for the federal government. And I'll talk about that later if I have an opportunity to do so. Like I said, this is a 4-hour class, and something just happened. Whoop, there we go. So what do we do? What are we going to do with all this? Now that we know what we're going to do, anybody that I haven't previously told how to do this, can anybody take some guesses at what we're going to do? We're going to ask for a list. Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Let me talk about this. When somebody's about to move out of their house and they shut off their utilities, would you say that a lot of people moving out of their house probably transfer and or turn off their utilities? Yes. Okay, so if they turn off their electricity, turn off their gas, turn off their water, anybody think that water department might be a public entity? That water department is a public entity and they just turned off their water. Is there a possibility that house is now vacant? Is there a possibility that house was just sold? Yeah. But is there also a possibility that maybe that person couldn't afford the water payment? Is there a possibility there was a flood in the house and the city had to turn it off immediately? There's a lot of different possibilities there, and most of them possibilities are really good for you as a real estate investor. How would you like to be able to get a fresh list of all the vacant properties in your city that are potentially vacant every single month? Basically for free. Most of all of these you can get for free. You need to contact this, hold on, let me, if you want a list of all the properties that have been shut off, who do you need to call to?
He never did.
Water department. Did I hear anybody else say water department? A couple of people? Makes sense, right? Now just take into consideration we're dealing with the government. When you're dealing with the government, I guess we're in Addison's little thing, I shouldn't say this too loud, but when you're dealing with the government, take the common sense, knock it down a couple notches, and if you wanted a water department list, don't go to the water department. Go to the city. You need to speak to the city. The city is almost always the ones that are going to handle the Public Information Act. The city attorney or the city secretary. I keep hitting the wrong button. Contact the city to file an open records request. Feel free to take pictures of my slides. I really don't care. Submit requests for all residential properties that have had the water disconnected. I say residential properties. If you're into vacant land or commercial properties, this works for those as well, but do you really want the water that got turned off at Unit B of a 900 unit apartment complex?
I did marry the person.
Maybe yes, maybe no.
I did marry in my 20s. No.
Did I miss something?
I probably won't ever get it.
Cross-reference that list with CAD to determine owner's name and address. Central Appraisal District, CAD.
Thank you.
And the reason that is, and if I get enough time, it looks like I'm moving forward fast enough. I'm going to try and get you some. What is going on? Okay, this is going to be like red light, green light, go. All right, cross-reference that list with the CAD to determine owner's name and address.
This is my boyfriend.
And the last step to that is making money.
Oh my gosh.
Has anybody in here ever heard of this before until now? Very few people outside of the people I've already discussed this with.
Who I think legit.
I am opening up the doors to a marketing strategy that most nobody in here has ever heard of. For the new real estate investors in this room, y'all probably are not getting the full level of information that I'm dropping on you right now.
Cyberspace.
That's interesting. All right, let me show you some of the sequences and processes I put into place to get this happening. Let's take a look at
I don't even
this.
bother to post anything because there's so many people on Facebook who say it so much better than I
How
do.
many cities?
And Kelsey being one of them.
We've got Dallas. We're looking at Dallas right now. Within 75 miles of Dallas, how many cities do we have?
Remind me to do my
I'd seriously ignore what's going on the screen. I spent over 7 months trying to figure this out, and I'm dropping it on you in 30 minutes. I'm dropping a lot of information off on you. Some of y'all may not fully understand the level of information I'm giving to you right now. This is a serious real estate investor secret that I'm opening up the doors to for you here. How many cities are within 75 miles of Dallas? Approximately 187. Out of 187 cities, how many cities would I pull this information from? About 184, because 3 of them were such a pain and they were so small it wasn't even worth it to me anymore. But I pulled it for all of them. Let me show you how this works. What I did is I figured out how to do it in one city, and then I hired a lady at the office to figure out the rest of it for me. Let me see what we got here. Let me switch over here so I can see here. For the people in the back, I'm sorry if you can't see, but on the left side, we've got a list of cities. Do you see how many cities we got there? That is a lot of cities. Right next to it, we've got the county appraisal district attached to that city. Is this city paid? Yes or no? Do you see how many yeses that are up there? Not many. That's a pretty blank column. So for anybody here that's saying, I don't have money to invest in real estate, how much money do you need to get this list? 0. How much money do you have to market to this list? Pretty much 0. You might have to pay for gas, but door knocking still works. Okay, this is the city, this is the bookmark for it, and this is the email for who I need to get in contact with, and off to the side of that is how I need to contact them. Online, email, fax form and folder, their phone number, their fax. So what I would do is once I figured out how to do my first city, I hired somebody at the office to do all the rest of the cities and figure it out for me, and then they outsourced it to the Philippines. I had an assistant in the Philippines working every single day, pulling these lists for me, cross-referencing them against CAD, and once they cross-referenced them against CAD, they'd send that list back to my office, and then my office would market to this list. Can anybody in here start seeing why I was able to do almost 70 properties? You need to start putting together systems. You need to start putting together processes. You need to start thinking about marketing as a business in and of itself. How many marketers do we have in this room? Everybody is a marketer. If you are not marketing, you are not in real estate. The two do not separate. Okay? Once you've done all that, remember how I said there are exceptions to the act. Does anybody remember that? Exceptions to the act. Okay, so what happened is in my very first attempts, I went to a city called Seagoville. Pretty sure it was Seagoville or Balch Springs, one of the two. And I approached them and I said, I want all properties that have had the water disconnected in your city in the last 30 days. And they responded back, ha, 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 I don't have to do that. Texas Utilities Code, Chapter 187 says that I do not have to provide that information to you. It is private information and I don't have to do it. So I walked away with my head down and I was sad and I went on to the next city and I went on to the next city. And I was getting them from some cities, but some cities were still coming back with the Texas Utility Code, Chapter 187. And Chapter 187 said that there were certain aspects of that person's information that were public and other aspects that were private. So they were denying me. Well, I finally got to one city, and that city actually understood what the Office of the Attorney General wanted. And what the Office of the Attorney General wanted was if you deny somebody on an exception, what do they have to do? They have to ask the Attorney General if they're allowed to. Well, I approached one city and I asked them for this information, and that city actually understood the process for the Office of the Attorney General, and they sent a certified letter to the Attorney General and said, hey, this person has asked for this information. I'm going to deny them based on Chapter 187 of the Texas Utilities Code, and the Attorney General responded back to that and copied me on the response. And the copy on that response was, You are correct. You do not have to provide him with that information covered under Chapter 187 of the Texas Utilities Code. But there are things that are not under the Texas Utilities Code, and that is the street address. You must redact all of the information that's held private and release everything that is not. And if you don't do that within the next 10 days, he has measures that he can take to go against you. So what did I get? A list of addresses. Did I know who lived there? Nope. Did I know why it was shut off? Nope. Did I know the delinquency amount? Nope. I knew none of that information. So what did I have to do to find out? Central Appraisal District. Cross-reference that information against the CAD. Now I've got an owner's name, owner's mailing address, and now I've got a fresh marketing list that was pretty much free of one of the best marketing lists available. Does anybody in here love me right now? Yeah. One or two people? Okay. All right, looks like we still got some more time. I've hit a high-level view of that. Anybody else want to see some other things that I was doing outside of the norm? I can sit here and talk to you about the normal stuff. Who wants me to talk about the normal stuff you can learn on Bigger Pockets in a half hour? Would you rather me talk about the normal stuff or the stuff that nobody else is talking about? Stuff that nobody else is talking about. All right, I'll keep on going. I'll see if I can hit you with some good stuff here. Just to give you some information here, this is what I was talking about right there. I'm requesting a list of all residential properties in the city of blank that have had the water shut off anytime between blank and blank. I only need the property addresses. I do not want any customer information or reason for shut off. I authorize you to redact confidential information in accordance with section, my apologies, 182.052 of the Utilities Code. Please email to Don at I-35 Homebuyers. That is what we were doing. Every single month we'd get a full new set of lists. And with a full new set of lists, we were buying properties. Anybody in here like to buy properties? Yeah. Anybody in here afraid of competition? No. No, don't be afraid of competition. I love competition. But guess what happens when you start marking to this list? Your competition goes down to zip. And now I'm going to say competition goes down to zip, but now we've got more people in this room that know about it. But I knew my competition was zero. I knew it was zero because a big chunk of the cities that I was approaching had no clue what I was doing or how to do it. I had to educate them. I had to set out the paving stones for everyone over in this room. So if you approach one of these cities out there and they act like they don't know what they're talking about, remind them of me and the Attorney General, and you will get the list. Okay? So let's look at some other things. This is a 4-hour presentation. I'm condensing it down to 30 minutes. So really quickly, let's see here. Oops. This ain't working. Let me get this fixed real quick. Let me find my mouse.
When do you do these presentations?
I do these on webinars for my Propelio users. So any Propelio users ever attend one of my webinars? Are they decent? Yeah. Semi-okay? Thanks for your help. It is what it is. I try to make people happy. I can't do it all the time. So let's skip through some things. Key to direct mail. I'm going to have to skip through this. Feel free to record. Feel free to take pictures. Dual path readership. Learn about it. Call to actions. You need them. PS, postscripts. Do it. Pain and pleasure is a negotiating strategy. Find out what their pain is. Keep poking them in it, and then give yourself as the solution. Pain and pleasure works excellent as a negotiating strategy, and you need to touch. Don't go to jail touching them. But what I mean is you need to market to them more than once. Okay? The hard part, copywriting. Copywriting is not something that you do in just a small period of time. Copywriting is extensive. It takes time. Copywriting is the key to your direct mail marketing campaigns. It is imperative. I would spend over a week writing a simple postcard, and I would split test that postcard religiously over years. When I first started doing probates, it was hectic. People did not like being marketed to solicit the sale of their deceased parents' homes. But when you start figuring out your copywriting and you nail it, people call you up flat out saying, if I ever decide to sell my house, I'm selling it to you. Copywriting is important. Don't skimp on it. I was spending about $20,000 a month in direct mail. Benefits over features. Ask triggering questions. Brainstorm about your seller. What are their problems? What are their objections? What do they want? Think about your seller. Nobody cares about you, your brand, all that stuff. Think about them, and that's how you need to gear your copywriting. Pain and pleasure, once again. Dual readership path. Learn about it. Dual readership path is important. I'm not going to pick on We Buy Houses if there's any We Buy Houses people in here, but this is a horrible postcard. Bandit signs. This is one thing that I do love, bandit signs. I'm not going to get into the legalities and or code violations aspects of it. If you're concerned about getting a ticket for a code violation and you think that $150 ticket's not going to be taken care of on your first $30,000 wholesale, all power to you. I like bandit signs. What are those up there on the screen? Bandit signs. Let's discuss some of the drawbacks to bandit signs, since we've already kind of nailed it. Code enforcement. Am I worried about code enforcement? No, but it is a problem. Time. You need to take the time and or hire somebody to take the time to go out there and drop them. They are time consuming. They are extremely effective. Some of my best deals came off of bandit signs because these are people that have not hit lists. Most of the people that call me off of bandit signs are people that have not hit a list yet. But you also have to deal with them getting taken up. So every single week, what do you have to do? Put them back out there. It's a continuous process. It's a continuous process that makes a lot of money if you do it right. I don't care how much time something takes me as long as the dollars returned is greater than the effort performed. Don't worry about what something costs. Worry about something, what return. What is my return? Rich people say, what is my return? Poor people say, what is my cost? Convert your thinking. Okay? It's 5 minutes. Let's move forward into this. How many people in this room have a car? How many people have 2 cars? Let me see some hands. Come on, participate. I know I don't got a bunch of people on the bus here right now. How many people have a car? Couple people. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I got 50, 60, 70. At the peak of my marketing campaign, I had 76 cars. Do you see those? What are those? Those are bandit signs, permanently placed on the back of somebody else's car. Do you see that? Get full price for your house. I will pay full price for a house. How many people in this room will pay $1 million for a $100,000 house? I need to hear it depends. You will pay $1 million for a $100,000 house because it depends on one thing, and that is terms. Do not let price dictate the purchase and sale of your home. Terms dictate the purchase and sale of your home. I would gladly pay $1 million for a $100,000 house if I got it on my terms. What if I got a 1,000-year loan on it, on a 1,000-year balloon at 0% interest? Who wouldn't take that deal? I just got a free house that rents for $1,200 a month, and I'm not even taking into consideration appreciation over the next 1,000 years. I'm going to make my money on that house. Anybody in here take the $100,000 house for $1 million under those terms? If you wouldn't, wholesale that deal to me. Okay, I'll buy it from you. Did you see all those cars though? How did I get all those cars driving down the road for less than $1,000? Commissions. Commissions. Take a look at this. I've got 5 minutes. How to get these cars for less than $1,200. Read that. Pay attention. It works. I promise you, it works. This is a concealed carry state, so be careful. Wear your... Am I joking? No. Yes, I am. I am joking. I am joking. Being serious, do not go to Walmart and stake out a bunch of cars and put your signs on there. Do not do that. Do not do that. Do not do that. Do not do that. Can everybody agree that we don't do that? Yes, okay. Take a look at that ad that I placed on Facebook. I-35 home buyers. That's me right there. 171 likes, over 1,000 people reached. How many post clicks did I get? 133. Right here. Who wants some of this money? $500 to $5,000 for doing absolutely nothing. Yes, we mean absolutely nothing. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. Scam, gimmick, what's the catch? No catch. Here's what we got. You allow us to put a small sign on the back window of your car, and any deal we close that comes from your vehicle, you will get 10% of our profits. I'm not talking about some huge Mickey Mouse looking sign, just a simple sign saying we are buying houses. And I'm not sure you can't wait to get some of this easy money, so go here and get the process started. That was a squeeze page, boom. That's how I started getting cars. It's easy to get your friends and family. If you've got friends and family, most people do. I have a couple family, not so many friends, but I get them to put my sign on their car. That's easy to do. And then from there, Oh, let's see if I got internet. Hopefully, let's see if this pops up. Let's see if I can get this to pop up. Here's some marketing campaigns. I'll show you what are we real estate investors or marketers? Marketers. Marketing means everything. Social credibility means just as much. So I get signs on my friends and family, and that previous post right there was a raffle to earn some money. So if I haven't got anybody paid off my cars yet and I hold a raffle, whenever somebody wins the raffle, what do they get? Money. So whenever I give them money, do I just give it to them, or do I record them looking all happy because they just got some money? I record them getting happy. And when I record them getting happy, that is social proof. Social proof that my campaigns are working. Now that I've got that social proof and it doesn't appear that this is going to be working for me, this right here is a video of one of my people getting paid. I now take that video and I plaster it all over the internet so other people can see that person getting paid and reach out to me to get paid as well. Are you starting to realize how sometimes in a competitive market you need to do things differently so that way you can get a creative advantage? Okay, everybody, we just closed the lead from a car and have another under contract and hopefully closing soon. Unfortunately, the lead we just closed came from my car, but in the good spirit of fun, I'm still going to pay somebody. That's my Lexus sitting right there. That's my flip over there in the L Streets. Cleared almost $60,000 off that house. Came off that car right there. I still paid somebody for that lead. Why? It creates trust, it creates loyalty, it creates branding, it gets you more cars. I have a lot of stuff I can go over here. This is a 4-hour class. Would anybody like to attend this on a webinar to see the full thing? Yeah. Yes. All right, I'm out of time up here at the front. Do you feel like I took a good 30 minutes and gave you your time? Yes. Okay, if you want the webinar, you can come talk to me at the booth. I got the Propelio booth at the other side of the table. Do I got time for Q&A, or are we out of time on that?
2 minutes, 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Quick.
Yep. Right here.
I thought Texas was a non-disclosure state.
Texas is a non-disclosure state, but have you ever reached out to a real estate agent or a real estate broker and asked for comps?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So what we've done is our internet website is a broker reaction. It's a broker relationship. So the broker is working through the website to provide you comps. So you are asking the broker via the website for comps, and the broker is instantly providing them to you through the internet. So non-disclosure, are you referring to non-disclosures in regards to comps?
I'm talking about all these lists.
Non-disclosure is disclosing when we're talking about comparable sales. These lists we're talking about fall underneath the Public Information Act, and therefore you're able to get that information.
Non-disclosure is I don't have to tell you what I paid for the house I bought. That's what non-disclosure is. Information Act is more about getting information that is available to the public. So that's what he talked about. The Public Information Act is all about us as the public getting access to it. So non-disclosure means nobody has to pay, or no one has to state what they bought the house for. What's owed on it is obviously public information. What they paid is not. All right, any other questions? Yes.
On the non-disclosure, if I'm selling a wholesale, I could attach that also too. If I'm selling it to him, right, so he doesn't have to walk away from me bitter that I did not tell him where I paid for it, correct?
That has to deal with disclosing of home properties. That's a whole different subject. Let's talk about marketing. Does anybody have some marketing questions?
We got 1 more minute. That's it. So
was it seriously that good? Thank you.
Yes. Y'all put your hands together right here. Thank you, Daniel. Hey guys, Daniel, how do we get access to the 4-hour webinar?
If you come back to my booth, come back there, talk with me from there. I know we're out of town up here, but all of my Propelio users that have been on a webinar, I do these types of webinars once a month. I talk about different topics all the time. If you're interested in finding out how to fill in on this 4-hour webinar, I'll gladly talk to you about it back at my booth.